All right, so here's another quick and dirty one for you. This here is my trusty, dusty Mr. Coffee Pot. Served me very well. I've made a lot of black coffee in this thing. So anyway, it's a fantastic, super dirt simple $16 machine, and failed this morning, which is unacceptable because I need my coffee. Well, actually, it made a full cup of coffee. It just didn't keep it warm. It just shut off, and coffee was lukewarm after it was brewed. Tasted fine, so brewed it fine, but it just didn't keep heating. And I think I've narrowed down the root cause. I think it's just this switch, because as we'll see once I get in here, there ain't much to one of these things. So let's dig into the guts real quick. 7 screws holding this cover on the bottom. And then to get to this switch, this sucker just pulls off, and you just take a pair of pliers and pinch in both sides. I've already been in here. Pop the switch out the front, and you can get in here and inspect the gut. So I've come in here and just marked this thing so that when I pull these contactors off, I put them back. But really, that's it. There's only like 3 components in this whole thing. You've got this, rocker switch, which is just turn it one way, turn it the other way, with an LED in it to indicate that it's on. You've got this pipe in here, which has this resistive element attached to the bottom of it, and then this thermostat right here, which is in series with this heating element. And what this does is when this gets a little bit over the boiling point of water, actually I guess it is the boiling point of water, it shuts off. And so what that does is it heats your coffee up to just below boiling, and then it gets too hot, shuts off, and then it kicks back on when it gets to a certain point. So it just kind of fluctuates duty cycles between too hot and not hot, and that's how it keeps the coffee warm. And it just uses, I believe it just uses the thermal expansion of water, maybe with a check valve or something, I can't remember, to just force that water up through into here, and it drops it down through the coffee. And I mean, that is it. So anyway, there ain't much in here, so there's not much that can go wrong. And I think the switch failed because I already put a multimeter on it, and actually, let me just do that again. So I have the multimeter set to continuity. We've got red hooked up to hot and black hooked up to neutral. And if we press the button, nothing. But if I press the button better, so if I push on this, oh, you saw it there for a second. There we are. Yeah, usually your switch is not supposed to work like that. Usually it just does power. So I think the switch has failed. There's just something screws in here, and you have to do something weird with these contacts to make it contact. I think that's the only problem. So I think all I need to do is replace this switch, or I'm hoping I might be able to crack this sucker apart and glue it back together and see if I can clean it. And that's all I need to do to fix this thing, I hope. I really hope so, because I need coffee. That's a joke. I had another coffee maker. I always have a spare coffee maker on hand. But anywho, I'm going to see if I can fix that, or if I can set this thing on fire at 1, 2. All right, so turns out you can actually disassemble and clean the rocker switch, which I would have never expected from a sub $20 kitchen appliance, but here we are. So it's just a housing, and down in here, see there's 3 contactors for the 3 pins. So you have the neutral, which is connected to this spring, which also doubles, as the spring that this rocker moves back and forth on. We've got this central pin down in here for the hot wire out, and then over here you have this other contact for hot in, and then you have this little rocker, which I don't know if this was supposed to be brazed to the central pin or what. I'm assuming not, but it had coffee on it, so I think at some point coffee just got spilled on the switch and got in there and made everything cruddy. So I cleaned that up as best as I could, just scraping it with a screwdriver and using electronics cleaner. And I've cleaned up both of these down in here. So down in there, pretty much this guy just sits exactly like that. And so when you have this thing in there, it has a spring-loaded detent right here, which rides in this track. And so it's either pushing straight down, not making contact, or it's pushing directly on top of, or directly here, which is then bridging both contacts. And I think also what happened is this guy got a little melty. I think coffee got in there, made the contact not so good, made it heat up, and it got a little melty, and there was plastic built up on either side of the contact, so I scraped that off. And so basically this guy just pushes down, and it's either pushing this way, which is breaking contact, or this way, which is bridging contact. And then this detent has a spring in it, and then that is the hot wire coming in to power this LED, which comes up into the LED and then back out and up and over. And then that guy right there touches the spring, and so that is what powers the LED. So it's really that dirt simple, but I would have never expected that you could get in here. So I'm going to put this back together and see if it works now. Because if it was just cleaning this, then that's great. All right, so that's how that guy goes back together. And so just like that, I think we've got her fixed, more or less. I don't know. It's still a little screwy, but it could also just be the alligator clips not making contact. But yeah, if I twist it a certain way, it doesn't like that. So I think what happened as well is that when this started losing contact, it heated everything up and it caused this pin to melt. And I think this pin is now ever so slightly further out. It's just not quite making the best contact. I'm going to get in there a little bit more and clean up some of that melty plastic in there with a screwdriver. And then I think it's good to go and put it back together, and we'll just make ourselves a nice test pot of hot water and see whether or not it works again. Alrighty, I think we're finally there. So in addition to going in there, cleaning it up, scraping off the plastic, I also had to tweak the geometry of that rocker a little bit. I bent the contactor for the hot wire up just a little bit more, because after the thing had melted and this guy had kind of inset down into it a little bit more, it was kind of just always on, whether you turn the switch on or off. So previously it wasn't making contact because it melted and the plastic bubbled up and pushed the contactor off. Then after I scraped the plastic off, it had sunk down enough that it was now always making contact, so I had to bend the rocker arm up so that it would properly switch off, because after I cleaned it, it was always on. So, anywho, appears to be done now. So I'm going to slap all this back together and test it real quick and see if it bursts into flames. All right, so she's all back together. Just going to pour in some water. And see whether or not it catches on fire or not. If it sparks, it's probably not a good sign. The LEDs definitely burn out now, so that's different. But see if it makes coffee. That sounds like something's doing something. So we'll time it. Well, that seems to be a coffee pot if I've ever seen one. Well, 5 minutes and it's done. Yeah, pretty much. I gotta clean this damn thing. Well, I guess not really, because it's busted and I got a new one, but should probably clean it before I put it up. Well, in about 6 minutes, I made about 24 ounces of coffee, so now the real test is to see whether or not it stays warm and whether or not that's steam or smoke coming out of there. Smells like steam, so we'll assume it's steam. But I'll keep a close eye on it, make sure it doesn't catch fire. Alright, well, it's been over 30 minutes now with this thing running. Let's see if this is still hot. Yep, that is close to boiling. So, I think we fixed it. Well, with that having been said, we can cut this sucker off. And I guess let's let this sit for a bit and make sure that it is actually off and it's, not actually still boiling coffee. But anywho, I think we're good to go, and this sucker is back to more or less full working order. Just ignore the fact that the LED doesn't turn on. But anywho, so yeah, that was a cheap, about 15-minute repair to save you a $30 for a new Mr. Coffee. The inflation's a bitch. This thing was $15 when we bought it. It's like $30 now. But anyway, I digress. If you like stuff like this, consider giving the video a like, comment. Tell me if you had some other weird, interesting failure with a Mr. Coffee. I'm sure there's probably millions of these in the U.S. So I'm sure these have failed in all sorts of interesting and catastrophic ways. And I feel sorry for you if it was something not so simple. And if this video helped you, consider, again, giving the video a like. And if you want to see more stuff like this, subscribe. So smash the big gray button down there. Until next time, I'm out.